Is the industry in a complete reset, like go down to zero and start all over again? Are we there yet? Well, I got John Bradley here that's been in the industry over 50 years, and with my combined of retail of 35, we will review where are we at in the state of the bicycle industry. Is it a reset or is it something other than?
Welcome to I Know a Guy Bicycles, hanging out with a guy. Hi, I'm Justin the Guy. Obviously I have a garage shop. Take scary out of used, one bike at a time. If you want to be kept up to date on latest projects and topics, please like and subscribe.
Yeah, Justin, I would sort of, when you mentioned reset, it sort of sparked in my mind. Reset to me implies that we've retrenched and now we know where we're going. I would say chaos might be a little bit more accurate term because nobody really knows where the bicycle industry is going at this point. There's a lot of companies that are starting to release their earnings reports. We were talking about that a little bit earlier.
Yep.
I'm not sure if anybody's really making money. I'm sure there's some out there, but it's big players. It's Excel, which owns more brands than you can even imagine, including Raleigh, Focus, Cervelo, Cannondale, a number of other ones.
That's the Pond Group, right?
Yeah.
Pond Holdings.
Oh, sorry, Pond.
Yeah.
There's two big.
Wow,
European
I
groups.
corrected John once.
Yes.
You're slipping in your old age, man.
So Pond and Excel are both two big European-based mega brand companies. So my mistake.
Yeah, no worries.
But yeah, it's a time of uncertainty, I would say. There are also with these a lot of companies struggling. We're also a lot of times what happens as a result of this kind of chaos, reset, whatever you want to call it, is there will be mergers and acquisitions. There will be more, smaller companies. The value will drop, and somebody sees an opportunity and believes in their ability to pump them back up. So there'll be, buckle your seatbelts because there's a fair amount of probably change in ownership in a number of companies. I am not privy to any particular information about that, but it's typically what happens in these situations.
Yeah, a few weeks ago in bicycle retailer, Shimano reported another quarter being down. It wasn't huge, but still it's like a 10 to 15% drop. And in my perspective, and you can correct me because you've been behind the scenes of the manufacturing, been over there in Taiwan and Japan and all that. But what I see it being is Shimano is the order taker of Trek Specialized, Giant, all the manufacturers, and they're going to see how those brands are behaving much sooner than the rest of them because, correct me if I'm wrong, they got to do those orders like 6 months to a year and a half out. So showing that reduction of orders, where's that really number coming from? That's another good question. Is it coming from actual sales at that particular time, or is it based off of pre-sales of future orders going into the next year to second year model changes, that kind of thing?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think it's predominantly a little bit closer to the actual shipments. Okay, we took the order. We're gonna we'll actually ship the product.
Okay, so when the transaction is filled.
And it's interesting when you use the term order taker. I thought about that because, is the cart being pulled by the horse or is the cart pushing the horse? Because a lot of times, what Shimano will come out with some great new product, and everybody wants to build one, or build something that takes advantage of their great new product. Same thing with SRAM.
Okay. Yeah.
And
don't want to exclude SRAM. It's just we just haven't seen their numbers. So,
but I think I think they're making their economic projections based on what they see happening within retailers, all over the world. One of the things I think in Giant they were talking about, well, things are pretty rough in Europe and North America and probably South America, but China's going pretty well. They're actually doing well in China. So Giant is a Taiwanese company, but they also have at least one, if not two, factories within China, and it is literally and figuratively a huge market for everybody if you can get in there.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what, and then Shimano, like I say, is they talk. Everybody talks to each other. Like, what are you projecting and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's like whether you can actually plan for it or react to it is kind of the where we're at. But it's everybody's like a little nervous, I think, right now.
Oh, I'm sure they are. I mean, the economical downturn, I mean, it is a bike recession. Let's just put it that way. We're definitely in a point where the band manufacturers don't know where we're going from here. And that gets followed up by Fox suspension, which mountain bikes are still huge and still a big part of the cycling market. And when they're down double digits up to almost 40%, like 39.8% down, that means the majority of those are a good portion of those pre-orders for mountain bikes being built. So even though there's e-mountain bikes, I don't think that's obviously not keeping up with the demand or the production that they need. So seeing a number that big in a company like Fox, well, two questions. Another one is that makes you completely pucker. Like, what are we going to have to do to turn that around? And the second, are they going to be, like you were saying, to allude to your idea, or actually in historical sense of, are they going to be up for sale? Will the company go in and go, we know you're hurting, we got some big checks here, but who's big enough to do that? At this point.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's the thing. It could be outside the industry money coming in.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that do a lot of interesting things. I mean, whoever thought that the heirs to Walmart would own the Denver Broncos?
True.
They're like, hey, that's cool. Let's do that. That would be fun.
Yeah.
So there's people out there with literally that kind of money. I mean, one of the things that I think we should stress is that, we have not heard any signs of dire distress at Fox or at Shimano. I mean, if anybody, I would probably bet on Shimano to survive.
Oh, yeah.
So we're not talking about that at this point, although there probably will be some companies that do go out of business. I mean, the part of the problem right now is there's so much, the supply chain is so out of whack because you've got a lot of bikes on retailers' floors. I overheard yesterday that one local retailer here in northern Colorado has got a lot of beautiful bikes, pretty high end, and they've dropped prices like crazy, and they are still not moving.
Yeah.
Part of that is the time of year, because traditionally here in the Rockies, once people, you start to see that first, lift ticket ad from Vail or whatever.
The first frost,
all of a sudden
numbers are tanking.
Those dollars are going towards winter sports and away from summer sports, which we are. There's a problem with the supply chain. Also, mountain bikes in particular, very complex product. I actually overheard a conversation on the ride this weekend about how complex it is, and the more complex a product is, like by complexity I mean, are you dealing with products from a number of different places to put your one bicycle together?
Sure. Yeah.
That they are harder to put together, longer lead times, all that type of stuff. It's. I mean, I'm sure there's an opportunity for somebody to write all sorts of case studies for business schools about what's happening right now. Sorry, I'm kind of wandering around.
Yeah, no, that's good insights, because when you're looking at mountain bikes with Fox, they're one of the many components to a full suspension bike or front suspension bike, and good valid point, because when you're looking at a bike manufacturer, it's just the frame. That's what they're making, and everything else is sourced, like the pivot bearings, the sleeves where the pivot fits on, the suspension itself. Instead of just like a basic road bike where you have bearings in the bottom bracket and a headset, now you have bearings in like 8 different places in different sizes, whatever their latest and greatest engineer complicity
Front
is.
shocks, rear shocks.
Then you have those brands, and they have different levels. And you look at, then you have dropper posts, and then the hydraulic brakes, and it's just like, and there I have a video I just dropped about reviewing a mountain bike, and I do not very many use mountain bikes because there's that layer of I have to do it right if I'm not going to do it at all, right? So I would have to do an overhaul on all suspensions in that case. And I do have a few to sell, but I know for a fact, for number one, they're from the original owner, and second, they were ridden like twice.
Yeah.
So I know everything is still in pristine condition.
Right.
So it's like new. And I'm not going to touch a mountain bike at all if I can't get it to that level of confidence to the consumer. So even when you were talking about the local bike shops can't sell new stuff, well, I had one person's like, well, everything's on discount, but I can't find what I want. Well, it's the wrong stuff that's left now.
Right.
Because this has been going on for a year and a half.
Right.
And all the good stuff that everybody's been buying that they discounted is gone. Now they're left with all this oddball stuff.
Like big sizes,
It's big,
small
sizes, expensive, whatever,
or,
and it's the wrong stuff. And they need to move it to get more or newer stuff in. So it's like it's a funnel, and we're at a big, horrible, like, traffic jam of unbelief from different. Just imagine a road that has so many different funnels going into it, and it's just all, there's no express lane. There is no express lane.
The other, I think the other kind of joker in the deck here is, the market right now. Traditionally, the market for higher-end product are people with a fair amount of money that tend to be geezers like me.
Yeah.
I'm a geezer, but I don't necessarily have
my
much
demographics.
money.
Most people are watching this right now.
So a lot of those people are leaving pedal bikes and going to e-bikes and stuff like that. So, or maybe there's also been a shift away. I've talked to, unfortunately, a lot of people who have stopped riding the road bikes because of dangers of riding your bike on the road.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of pieces to this puzzle. I mean,
yeah, there's a huge flux from the e-bike surge, and that's still probably the only thing that's really selling now. Still, because there is rebates on those. Gravel bikes is the other direction. But other than that, like you're saying, road bikes, if you have the latest Trek Madone or the latest Specialized on the floor, that's $5 to $10 grand. It's not going to go anywhere. And here's the other big funnel problem: traffic jam is. There hasn't really been a huge revolutionary change in road bikes and mountain bikes in the last 3 to 5 years. So within the last 2 years, they've discounted a whole bunch of it, and those customers that do buy the $5,000 to $10,000 bikes have bought one on discount. And I could be corrected, but I feel like 90% of that customer base have already bought one. And they're not going to buy one anytime soon.
No.
So now you have this huge hole where the Trek and Specialized are still pushing out like their latest Madone and their latest Roubaix or S-Works, and you're like, what are you doing? Because there's no more custom. Did you make two? Because that's all you're going to sell.
No.
Where's the deficit? I mean, it's like, okay, so. We got that huge problem, and then we're going to end talking about, for the manufacturing part of it anyway, about Giant. And Giant has their own bike line, but also they build bikes for other companies and a slew of other things, and they're huge. And knowing and seeing, they're giant. And I always thought that was kind of weird. Anyway, they're 12% down. And that means that's like another huge indicator. Forget what Specialized and Trek say. That they're being, Trek's probably still being built by Giant or some of their stuff, and Merida is the other one. And when you're looking at, they're showing a huge deficit. Fox is a huge deficit. Shimano, which is the parts that go on both of those, all of those brands for the most part. We don't know the SRAM numbers or microshift or whatever, but you would think. This is becoming a huge, massive, chaotic. We haven't been here before. Or we've been here close to this. But we were talking about peaks and valleys. Yeah. And
boom and bust.
Boom and bust.
Yeah.
What would be the most similar to one that we're currently facing?
Mid to late 90s, the mountain bike market crashed. I mean, it was like we were riding away, baby. It was like, keep building those things. It's awesome. Make them more expensive, cooler, whatever. And all of a sudden, I think part of it was kind of a natural thing because they went from being so trendy.
Yeah.
And also the fact that, I mean, the funny thing, a lot of people just think, why all these people are riding mountain bikes off road? Well, one of the realities of the mountain bike is, for a lot of people, it's like a comfort bike. Like, hey, you mean I don't have to ride a bike with the handlebars down here and the seat way up here?
Yeah.
So it was this untapped need, but that got filled up. I'm trying to think, there might have been a recession at the same time, so bang.
Yeah.
So we went from all being kind of fat, dumb, and happy to pretty skinny and grumpy. But I'm working on a whole 7 doors in this video. But
yeah, we're gonna get to sleepy here real soon, or sneezy.
Actually, it's funny because we were talking before we started filming. Is Stingrays were the first boom I experienced. Is like huge.
Okay. Yeah.
And everybody, Schwinn led the charge, but then everybody jumped in, and then whammo, that fell, and then it was the 10-speed boom, which I think we've talked about in other videos, where it was a combination of the ecological movement and the gas prices that like, hey, those bikes are pretty cool. Let's go there.
Yeah.
And then that crashed, and then all of a sudden I think it was tri-bikes was the next one. Everybody had to have a tri-bike. Remember that?
Oh yeah.
And then thank God the mountain bike came along after that, because that overwhelmed just about everything we've seen.
Yeah. Then that crashed, and then Lance started winning some tours, and that brought the road bikes back.
Phenomenal.
That was huge. So I would say, if you had the playbook, saying like, if you were talking to Trek, Giant, Specialized, anybody that has a history that goes that far back, and go, okay, flip to your playbook back to mid-90s and take a look there and see how did we get out of that rut. And maybe a combination, a couple other ones, because the customers are not there. I mean, they're there, but they're going to need to be really enticed to buy something new, because they're all going to flood to used, and even the used market is dropping like a rock. You can get titanium bikes for $500. I mean, that's absurd. I mean, $500 to $1,000, you get yourself a good titanium, older but still really good, relevant today, with skinny tires, or even some a little bit wider tires. Or you can convert a mountain bike to more with a drop bar and make yourself a pseudo gravel bike. So you can. There's all those aspects of the used market that's going to cut away any new. And I was thinking about this the other day, and I was thinking there was 3 main points that, if, let's say, John Burke talked to me on Sunday. We did an event. We were both there, but not together. Apparently, we didn't know we were both there. But anyway, we were at the same event, and I was running in my head, if John Burke for some reason asked me, what would you think would be the best thing to do? It's like, well, number one, you need to get your inventory straightened out to the point that's price point correct, like for the actual customer, like not the $300 jerseys, maybe $100 or $50 jersey. A bike that, like specifically road bikes, bring those down to under $1,000 again, like your $700, $800 bike. Something that's good quality or decent. Is you need those customers. You need to focus not on the high end anymore. You need to focus on the people getting into cycling, starting their adventure. Give them the best experience possible, because that will cultivate. It's a long plan. It's the long game to get those people back in the door, because they've raised that number so high on a lot of categories that it's almost impossible for anybody to think, well, why should I buy this when I can go buy a used one? I mean, how about you get a new bike at $500 to $700, which is used to be like in the 90s, $200, but now inflation, whatever. But that's still tangible. They can get to that, and therefore you give that opportunity, and therefore you're bringing your prices down, and it basically you're getting that brand recognition. So that same person that had a great experience on that Trek or Specialized is going to go for the next bike, if they get into it, a Trek or Specialized. So it kind of helps them cultivate up the chain. That's one. The second one was their retail stores. They've got in the game of retail. They have 400 or 500 stores now between Specialized, Trek, and Pond under Mike's Bikes. They have all those retail stores. They need to make those stores more like town and country, more of the warm hug. They need to step down from the high-end shop the high-end like Porsche dealership feel to it. They need to have like that. Has anybody gone to that restaurant where you need to treat the store like Cracker Barrel, like a warm hug? You got some good stuff, all good price points. They funnel their shop to the restaurant, so you go through that if you've ever been in one. But you got to make it appealing where the prices are not sticker shock from each row in the store. I mean, you need to give like more of a front end and more warm. I mean, they have good people. I'm not saying that at all. They do have good people. A lot of them came from bike shops, smaller shops. It's there, but there's a company Kool-Aid that gets pushed into all these stores that they have to kind of fit those that range. But you need to bring back that more of a warm hug.
You know,
And on my last thought, let me do the third one before you diverge. And the third one is, check, specialized. You need to invest in your independent bike dealers again. That's the biggest one. And how you do that is, I mean, Trek did the direct consumer. They had to do it, understand that. They're giving them a commission, that kind of thing, for what is sold in their territory. Not sure how that's going to totally look like on pen and paper and what they're going to receive. But they need to invest in the independent bike dealers because that's where, number one, they came from. And number two, that's how you're going to cultivate those brands. And not be a Trek concept store or specialized concept store. Let those shops buy just what they need, not what you feel like they need to carry. Basically give them a little more free reign. Instead of not having 80% of the sales for Trek, knock it down to 40%. Like it used to be back in the 90s, because you would have like Trek, Schwinn, GT, Mongoose. You would have those brands to give that shop and let those shops develop their own niche. Don't push road bikes into a mountain bike shop. Don't push, clothing into a shop that doesn't sell clothing. Let those shops manage their own business, but be happy to take any sale that they're willing to commit to, and support them in those decisions and build that up. And here's the underlier: support the shops that are not your brand. You want to make a community feel. So with the Trek stores, and also implement it in the Trek stores, but also implement it into the dealers, or let them have the free reign. It's like, hey, you're a mountain bike shop, or that Trek store is really a mountain heavy, eccentric, and they don't sell a lot of road. Have all those salespeople in Rolodex on the road shop in town and direct customers that direction. Don't try to be anything and everything to everyone, because that just turns people off. But if you turn them, it's like, hey, I know this guy down the road that does excellent in road, or does used, like me, which I've had a couple of referrals from Trek, but the craziest one this week, REI. Somebody in REI knew about me, and they're like, oh, he does used bikes. He'll be able to help you with that. He does mostly road, but he may be able to give you some tips on a mountain bike. I mean, that's a community thing. All us bike shop people at the front lines, we're a community. And half the times we worked at other shops anyway, so beware of that, because don't badmouth the competition, because half that staff probably came from the competition, that kind of thing. But anyway, those are my three main points. I'd be like, this is kind of, since you're restructuring, because you are restructuring right now, some levels, how about you start cultivating the community again and those avenues? What do you think? Do I hit something on the head, or I'm like off base?
I think there's some off base in this one, and the one that gets me so far is, what is the state of retail these days? And I'm not talking just the bike market, I'm talking everything. I'm kind of surprised since we've been talking. So I don't know if you guys know, but the garage door is open. We're looking right out on the street in front of Justin's house, and I have not seen an Amazon truck go by yet. Probably there will be over the course of this interview.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that, if you're trying to get people into the sport, it's really challenging in retail right now. Mm-hmm. Really challenging for retailers just to even open their blankety blank doors right now. Rent's gone up, labor costs have gone up, thankfully, for people working in bike shops. Yeah. But that also makes it harder for the owner to, do I need to raise my prices, all that type of thing going on.
Exactly.
Plus, I think bike shops traditionally kind of have a bad rap amongst the general public because they have been an enthusiast store where you feel like you need a membership card to go in.
Mm-hmm.
So, you've got this. I think there are some fundamental issues. Retailers don't know where retail's going.
Sure.
Think about 10 or 20 years ago, whenever there used to be all these great department stores around. I mean, not far from where we're sitting right now, and they're gone.
Yeah.
So that's a problem. Is where are people buying the bikes? I don't know that a lower priced, more attractive road bike would drive. Typically, that's not what sort of ignites a boom.
I'm not saying a boom, but at least
maybe kind of get things going.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the things I come to is I'm trying to think how to say that. I mean, I believe in bicycles. I mean, my personal experience has been fabulous. I've survived my worst wrecks. But I'm totally addicted, and I think they enhance my life, and I'm evangelistic about what they can do for a person's life. And I think one of the things, I think an industry thing, rather than point a finger at Trek, Specialized, Giant, whatever, and say you need to support the retailers, I think we have to look at the consumers and go, how do we get to those people?
Sure.
How do we ignite an interest? The event we were at over the weekend was the Ride for Magnus, which was unfortunately a national team member, a great kid, who was run over by a distracted driver outside of Boulder last year. Really good event, but what it's going to is we need to look at the issues here for traffic, road safety for cyclists.
Yep.
And that's a big issue, because I've talked to so many people. The gravel thing is fueled by people who don't want to ride this. So, we need to see how can we grow the market, and it may be at retail. I'm not sure. All these people are Trek, Specialized, Giant. They're all dancing around direct to consumer.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard. I'm with you. I'm a bike shop guy. I love bike shops.
Yeah.
But I also sort of probably participated in some of that snobbery, that bike snobbery. Telling people, oh well, you don't need lower gears, you just need to pedal harder. Or
yeah,
whatever.
We've all had our little crappy moments. Thank goodness I grew out of mine. Well, at least I did.
I think there are things like, if we make the environment, say outside of the, how we get bicycles into people's hands, if we make it a better, town, city, whatever, to ride your bicycle in, good trails, I think that can help generate more of that. Wow, that looks like a great environment. I feel confident about bringing my kids into it. Otherwise, I'm feeling threatened by it.
You got to have them a safe place to ride, and that's going back to historical. That was one of the first bike booms in like New York State. Is they added like a bike path, and everybody decided to get a bike and do some rides.
Yeah,
or one of many. I read.
The movement going, I think you're talking about like the 1880s, 1890s.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So a lot of people don't realize there weren't a lot of cars around the 1880s, 1890s. So why did they start paving roads? And it was because of the League of American Wheelmen, now known as the League of American Bicyclists, started lobbying like crazy. We need to pave these roads, because riding on a wet dirt road was awful. And a lot of cities, including probably Denver and larger cities around the country, had a lot of dirt roads and stuff like that. So they drove that until the automobile industry kind of overwhelmed, bicycles used as transportation and things like that. But I'm losing track here.
Well, what I'm thinking is the 3 points that I would have told John Burke is 3 just small ideas, actually, compared to, I think it's going to take a lot of different things to dig out of what they're dealing with right now. It's not going to be the Lance Armstrong, it's not going to be one thing. It's not, unfortunately, it's not going to be a silver bullet or the mountain bike craze or anything like that. I think it's just going to be a slow grind to get out of it. And a lot of it's infrastructure that we need to really focus on. There's a huge dollars available to build more bike paths, safe bike lanes and all that, from road to gravel to recreational riding. And then, we have beautiful trail systems here for mountain biking and so forth. So that's really good. But I think it's going to be a lot of different things to bring it out.
And one thing I think, So John Burke and I are friends, actually, but in his defense, I think one of the things that, and let me know if we need to stop for the truck.
We'll probably have to pause for the trash truck.
But Trek does a tremendous amount. You know, he went out of his way to come to that ride for Magnus.
Yep, I was pretty shocked.
He was actually one of the better speakers. And you know, Trek, Giant, Specialized, all work towards supporting infrastructure within their way. I mean, the tough thing right now is, you know, are there dollars available to do some of that stuff? You know, if you're trying to keep the lights on and keep people employed and stuff like that, it's kind of tough when sales are dropping.
Yeah.
So it's a challenging time for the industry, but I think there's a lot of good happening out there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I keep thinking, you know, a lot of people don't realize how good bikes are for you.
Oh yeah.
So you know, I there's no one answer. You know, and you said there's not going to be a magic bullet or whatever the term.
Yeah.
There might be.
The
problem with those things,
it'd be unseen, like unforeseen. It'd be like, oh, whoa, this is happening. Like, okay,
yeah,
infrastructure thing takes a lot of time. Restructuring your like 40% of SKUs reduction and restore, you know, the inventory, the building, the manufacturing, and getting to the customer's hands that want the product. That's going to take a lot of time. To supply chain issues and pricing issues and the economical state of the state. You know, if we get a little bit better economy and interest rates are down and people are buying more stuff, so it has to be a combination of several of these things coming ahead. And if there's like one magic bullet, that'd be great, but
not going to happen.
I mean,
you can't bet on
it. You can't bet on it. I mean, once they found cycling to be a profitable business in the 60s and the 70s, they've been pushing the latest tech and ingenuity and styles and all that for the last 4 decades. So, I mean, I wouldn't say it's a lull of advancements, but there's nothing really super shiny and new that's going to revolutionize the market like mountain bikes were.
Or the one thing I think could help with that is, you know, with the e-bike.
Oh, true. Yeah.
Because in order to, you know, you and I went to go buy an e-bike today, you know, the ones I would probably be attracted to are unfortunately like, you know, probably $3,000 or $4,000.
Yeah.
And which is kind of crazy to me because a lot of the rebate programs are for people who probably can afford the dang things anyways, regardless of rebate. But I guess if it gets them going, it's the same thing with electric cars. But I think there's a chance, you know, if somebody can come up with a reliable, safe, I'm not worried about battery fires, sort of lower priced e-bike.
Yeah.
I think that could be revolutionary in terms of enhancing both transportation and recreational usage.
Well, the transportation shouldn't just stop at the e-bike. That's where, you know, I kind of question that too, in a sense, because I just thought about this recently. Is it shouldn't be? You know, I mean, if you're rebating from the state level or the government level, maybe, you know, have a little bit bigger rebate on the e-bikes because they're a bigger lift, but maybe just anything that's like over $1,000 have a $400 or $300 rebate to help do multiple things. Get people riding on bikes. It reduces. You know, people don't need e-bikes to commute. They've been commuting on regular bikes for all this time. If you provide a small rebate, 100 or 200 or whatever, to help, like you're saying, I can't afford an e-bike, but I can get myself a good little, you know, recreational mid-range bike to commute on. See, you can switch.
I think you're a little bit off target there.
Really?
Yeah, because what a lot of the rebate programs are about is they're trying to get somebody out of their car.
Yeah. Well.
Okay, so if you're driving your car to work, you got the air conditioning on, you got the stereo going.
True.
You got your coffee cup. You know, and there are plenty of really good pedal-powered bikes available to them right now.
Yeah, true.
They don't buy them. So the rebate targets, I think, are trying to get people out of cars.
Yeah.
And take advantage of the fact is like, I can get to work in a similar time, and a lot of times better time than I can drive my car because I don't have to look for a parking place. I can take the bike path, you know, whatever it is, to see the advantage of riding that bicycle. And one of the cool things potentially for a lot of, I suspect we're going to start to see people riding an e-bike going, wow, this is pretty good. They get into a little bit better shape and like, wow, I'm kind of I'd like to try a pedal-powered bike. Those look like fun
Do an
too.
e-bike.
Yeah. But the rebate thing, I think, like I say, the target for that is, like it is for cars, is to get somebody out of their big fat car and into a big fat e-car right now.
Yeah, we took advantage of the e-bike or e-car rebate ourselves.
Apologize to our viewers a little bit because this conversation is, we keep darting off, and that's because it's sort of, we're in this, crystal ball mood right now. It's like, how do we?
Yeah,
it's pretty cloudy crystal ball at this point.
It is very, which I'm sure it takes, the John Burks or the CEOs of Specialized or whoever's running Giant and Fox Sport. It's just, they're all probably kind of nervous and like, okay, they're not going to be pushing new stuff. They're going to be like, okay, you're going to spend a lot of time and energy trying to restructure.
Well, actually, I think I'm going to differ with you again a little bit there because you bet they're looking for something new because new is the strongest marketing term in the English language. Anyway.
Well, that's the whole playbook, and I've seen them kind of release some newer stuff, but the newer stuff that they're replacing is like the $10,000, the $5,000 thing.
No, I'm with you there. But what I'm saying though, is
it doesn't do anybody any good.
If Trek or Giant or Specialized or somebody saw a way to build a really cool e-bike for under $1,000, they would be all over it.
Yeah,
that's what I'm talking about.
Okay, yeah.
So I think it's everybody's looking. These are all for-profit companies.
Sure.
You're a for-profit company.
Yeah.
And I think you are.
Most of the time.
Yeah. So they've got to look and say, can we keep can we keep going?
Yeah.
So they're all trying to survive, and everybody's trying to figure things out. There'll be mistakes made. There'll be advances made.
Yeah.
We're gonna. It's turbulent, interesting times. Yeah. I'm hopeful just because I believe in bicycles as you do. There's just a wonderful invention and addition to all of our lives if you like bikes. It's really interesting.
Yeah, we're definitely interesting times. Well, that's a good lead off. I do have a video, the Magnus ride, so I'll have that linked below. Check that out. It was kind of, if you want to see a mechanic squirm trying to work on bikes between 1992 to the current day, disc brakes, it's comical.
I have not seen that breadth of, because it's literally like everything from 40-year-old whatever
it was
to the latest brand new stuff, and there were 4,000 people who rode in that thing.
Yeah, it was crazy.
It actually reminded me of going to Ragbri, which has got like 8,000 or 9,000 people at Ragbri. But you see in fact, I parked my car, looked over across the parking lot. The guy next to me, he's got a high wheeler. I don't know if you saw that guy out there.
Oh, yeah, I saw that. Yeah,
so a penny farthing.
A penny farthing, yeah.
Which is, I was joking with him. As I said to him, apparently size does matter. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But he kind of laughed.
Yes. Those guys are usually, no offense. If you ride one, that's great, but they usually are a different breed of people.
Yeah,
for sure.
It was a really powerful event. I would recommend that you definitely check out the video that you'll do.
Yeah, after you see me scramble, it cuts off to John Burke talking about his perspective of the event, and then Governor Polis was there.
Joe Goose.
And Goose, he was there. Then very, very powerful speeches from both the mother and father of Magnus, which
it was
heart-wrenching. And this is what goes to me where when I do events like the MS-150 and other events like this was completely different for me going to a memorial ride. I mean, fortunately I haven't had to go to too many of these, but any of those events like that or similar to like the MS, you asked me one time, like, well, do you really make anything off of that? Do you make any sales of spending your time out there? And the answer to that, my quick answer was like, no. And then I thought about it for a little bit, and what it really does, it makes me a better perspective, better mechanic, better shop owner, better community embracing, energized. Like, I'm not just doing this for profit. I'm doing this to cultivate people getting into cycling. The ones that are into cycling have a better ride. You know, those that are been in cycling for a long time, take care of their needs when they need it. You know, it made me much better, where in turn, here's the gold nugget is I'm a better shop person than I was before I did that ride, the event ride. It's not what I actually made of the event. It actually makes me a better person that eventually will filter through, you know, repeat customers, which is already on that trajectory anyway, what I do. Yeah. But anyways,
yeah, gets the word out.
Yeah, it gets the word out. So I digress. So anyway, other links in the back and bottom. If you have any great insights, please share. And again, we got a loose dog. If it was nice in your neck of the woods, please go for a ride. Until next time, have a great day. Okay. Paranoia. We talk for an hour and we got nothing. Anyway, I've done that before. I'm like, just talk to myself for an hour. And people think I'm crazy. Anyway, digress. All right, back to original thought. Cut scene.